Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. And today I'm going to be going through how to build ruins in your Minecraft worlds. Whether you're building in survival, whether you're building an adventure style map, whether you're building a world for a server. I think these tips will be really helpful for you. I think they add a lot of character to a world, kind of give it a bit of a backstory, makes them feel like they've been lived in rather than, just very much in the present. And so I'm going to go through how to build this tower and along the way give you some hints and some tips, some ideas on how to make some of your other builds ruined and fit into this kind of theme. And so to begin with, we're going to look at this tower. Now, I think one of the biggest things to think about is why this building is here. There's not just ruined buildings that pop up here, there, and everywhere in real life, and so why would there be in Minecraft, I suppose? So I think it's worth thinking about why this building's here and putting it in the right place. So here we've got a tower. And generally towers are used as kind of outposts. They're used to kind of defend areas. And so if we look at this tower, it's kind of perched on a hill and it's defending this kind of big area of plains that there might be a village or a town on, some farms, and then also this kind of river that runs through the mountain range. And so this is a really good, strong, defendable kind of area. And so there's every reason for a tower to be there. And I think that's really important when you're building ruins, making sure that you're building something that deserves to be there and isn't just there for the sake of it. I think that makes them feel a lot more natural, and it doesn't, as I said before, they don't feel artificial. They don't feel just kind of like they've popped up out of nowhere already ruined. And so I'm going to go through with you kind of how to build this, or at least something similar, and then we'll go through some other stuff. So let's jump into it. So here we are in a flat world with the tower kind of pre-built here. I think it's really important that you build what you plan on ruining kind of to its fullest extent, what it would have looked like in its heyday first. Because I think that gives you a much better idea of how it's going to fall apart, how it's going to decay. It becomes kind of much easier to make things look natural. Whereas I think if you start with something that's broken and you try and build it broken from the beginning, then I don't feel like it gives the same effect. I think it's much easier to make mistakes and things to look kind of out of place. And so if we were ruining something slightly smaller, a kind of a hut or a house or something, then I would probably recommend kind of breaking blocks and damaging it by hand. But in this case, we're using stone, and it's a slightly bigger build. And so I think it's okay to have a little bit of fun with it and use some TNT. Now, my TNT looks a little bit strange. That's because I'm using a texture pack called Stay True, which if you're interested in, drop me a comment and I'll pop it in the description. But yeah, so let's kind of get to it. Now, I think it's important to think about a little bit of kind of a story, I suppose, as to kind of what's happened. And I think that's kind of the key that will run through kind of all of these tips, is kind of think about the story. How has this decayed? Maybe even why has it decayed? You don't have to go into too much detail, but just so you've kind of got that point in your head, and don't stray too far from it. Then I don't think it'll ever look too outlandish, too kind of unnatural, as long as you try and stick to that. And the other important thing before we start is, unless your building is on its side, kind of complete completely ruined and just a pile of rubble, it's still got to be structurally sound. You can't have, you know, a one block pillar that holds up the entire roof area. That just wouldn't happen. And so I think take it step by step. Don't destroy too much at once. But yeah, let's try and get into it. Now, I think a safe bet here is to kind of open up a bit of a hole in the top. Now, I've not put any kind of interior or wooden roof on this at the moment, and that's for a reason, and we'll kind of explore that a little bit further later on in the video. Now, I think if we break that and pop a TNT there, I think that will kind of blow a nice kind of opening. Yeah, I think that's okay. Let's try and destroy any floating blocks. In fact, I think we can kind of keep that one there. Maybe let's have that still on there, and again place that there. So we've got a bit more of an opening here. Maybe we can come in and kind of destroy that a little bit more. Maybe we can destroy that. And there we go. There's kind of a big, kind of nice opening hole in the top of that there. And then I think where else should we go? Maybe down kind of in the side here. Let's pop a block under that for when it drops. There we go. Cool. I think that's actually come out quite nicely there. And so as you can see here, we've got this hole on the top. We've got this hole on the side. It's starting to look pretty ruined and actually not too bad already. But there's enough supporting walls here still for this to just not completely collapse in on itself straight away. Maybe we can kind of open that up a little bit more. Yeah, like that. I think it's good. Don't just rely on the TNT. Use a little bit of handiwork. And yeah, I think that's starting to look really good already. We're off to a flying start. So the next step here is going to be adding some variety into the stonework itself. And we can do this in a number of ways. The kind of easy option would be to, you know, replace some of these with kind of mossy and cracked bricks. And, you know, it's not a bad option at all. It does start to make things look a little bit more unique. Makes them feel a bit more weathered and yeah, realistic. So we can pop some in here. Don't be too precise on this. Just kind of, just where you feel is right. Yeah, I won't do too much of this, but yeah, as you can see, things are starting to look a little bit, you know, a little bit more interesting already. Nothing too special, but you know, just an extra little level of detail. Now, this next tip is something that I don't see used very often, but I think it's quite interesting, and it does actually add quite a lot to your build. Now, using stairs or cobblestone walls, stone brick walls, we can actually make kind of these walls look like there's kind of bricks missing and things. So let's say in here we want to put some cobblestone stairs. So it kind of looks like there's a bit of a brick missing, and we could do the same up there too. Maybe pop one in there. And there we go. We're starting to have little bricks missing here and there. And also what I don't think many people actually know is with these walls, if they're surrounded by 4 full blocks, they actually fill out the square. So if we pop one in there, as you can see, it's filled it out, and that kind of indent makes it look, again, like there's a brick or kind of a bit of a slab missing, which really adds to not only ruined builds, but any kind of build in general. So let's kind of try and do some of this a little bit more. Let's pop an upside down one in there. We can do a bit of that on the side. Bring that in there. That's great. I think that's starting to look much better already. We've not done a huge amount to the top. Nothing too fancy. There we go. Starting to look a little bit better already. And as you can see, with every step, it's starting to look a little bit more ruined, a little bit more natural. It almost kind of fits in more than it did when it was new, when it was stood there kind of by itself. And you know, maybe that's because we haven't got any trees or any leaves around it, any bushes. But I think this is looking great. It's looking really good already. So let's move on to the next step. So as you can see, for this next step, I've got a lot of slabs in my inventory. And so we're going to start off by kind of placing some of this floor that I talked about earlier. Now, obviously, this isn't intact either. So let's kind of have it come across there. Maybe comes out a bit like that. Yeah, I think that's okay. Maybe even have a bit of a hole in there. A bit of a kind of pile up in that corner. Yeah. There we go, and maybe we'll add a kind of a second floor in around these windows. So yeah, much smaller. But yeah, there we go. Now, I think this is something that a lot of people will miss out on, having done ruins before. Is so we've got these big holes, we've got these bricks that are missing, but kind of where has that debris actually gone? You know, there may have been a fight with, you know, catapults or cannons firing into this. It may have just decayed and started to collapse, just kind of with the sands of time. But that debris just doesn't disappear. It doesn't vanish into thin air. And so I think we have to think about that and where that's gone. So as we can see, this kind of wooden roof has fallen in, caved in on itself a little bit. And so if we come down here, we can kind of maybe build this up a little bit. And also on this floor, we can kind of build up a little bit of some more wood maybe, as well as some kind of stone bricks and cobble, just to add like a kind of a little bit of rubble into this mix. I think that's looking okay there, yeah. We can always add some stairs or some stone walls kind of into this as well to make it look a bit more kind of jagged and rubbly, I suppose. But that's, you know, starting to get there. Then on the outside here, we also kind of have some of these crenellations that have dropped down, as well as kind of chunks of this wall. And so I think we have to think about that as well, and kind of place some kind of rubble and stone kind of here, there, everywhere to kind of represent that. There's as I say, that stone doesn't just vanish. It does go somewhere. Maybe we'll have, you know, a couple of bits of the roof down there too. And then on this side, obviously, a lot of this has fallen in. Some of it will have fallen in, but also some of it will have fallen out. Let's build this up. And there we go, we're starting to see some of that rubble already. It kind of expands the build a bit. And I think this is really getting somewhere now. It's really starting to look like a proper dilapidated tower. So the final stage of this is adding some greenery. Now, when a building's left like this, nature starts to take over again. And so I think it's important that we add some greenery to it. Now, we'll start off with some leaves, some kind of bushes and things that have grown up over time. Come out like that. Maybe it'll kind of wind its way up here a little too. Maybe it'll go kind of all the way up and around. You can even build it back over here and have it hang down. Maybe. There we go. That's not looking too shabby. Maybe we'll have another kind of smaller bush there. And maybe some kind of... Ooh, where can we squeeze in some leaves? That's okay. Yeah, pop them in there. Can we squeeze another one up in there? Yeah, that'll do. Then maybe another little one down there. Then I think we can add some vines. Now, these will grow, obviously, over time. And that kind of maybe adds a bit of life to the build, almost. It kind of continues to decay over time as your kind of world grows older. And that's maybe that's something you want, maybe that's something you don't want. There are ways around getting vines to grow, like turning off kind of tick times or using string, for instance. But for now, we're just going to kind of leave it like that. I've also got some cobblestone walls here because I thought they might be quite interesting pieces of rubble too. We can add in. And then maybe we've got a tree that's kind of starting to grow up through the rubble there. And maybe another one over here. And then we can start to kind of bring back nature, kind of growing through these cracks and these kind of fallen chunks of rock. And there we go. That's now looking, I think, really good. It's looking really natural. It looks like it kind of belongs there. It looks overgrown. And I think this is a really good character piece to a world, to a story that you maybe have in your kind of adventure map, in your server, in your kind of... Who knows? Who knows? But I think it looks great. I think it looks really cool. And this isn't, the most complicated tower either. Sometimes simplicity is better when doing things like this. But you could build a much grander castle that's been ruined, or a village almost that's maybe been overrun by zombies. If that's kind of the route you're going down, why not ruin it, make it look great? So here we are in the dark. I've added a few torches to give a bit of ambience to the build. I just wanted to show you what it was like, kind of in a bit of more of a moodier setting, I suppose. But I really hope you've taken something from today's video, learnt something, something you can put into your builds, in your worlds, in your servers. I think it's a really interesting thing to play with and toy with. I think that there's a lot you can do with it, much more than I've done. But I hope you found something new, seen something you like, that you can try and implement yourself. If you've enjoyed today's video, then please let me know. Drop a subscribe if you so desire, and follow me on Twitter for updates. And I very much hope to see you again soon for the next tutorial.